This is In Character. I'm your host, Gerard Robinson, Vice President for Education at the Advanced Studies in Culture Foundation. Today, Mike is going to join us in a conversation. He was a part of a group dialogue that we had about resiliency. He said some really great things there. And so today, we'll have an opportunity to learn a little bit more about Mike and about his ideas about resiliency, but also to learn about him as a person and as a professional. And so with that said, Michael, welcome back to In Character.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
As a group, we talked about resiliency. Many people who are watching or will listen may not have heard it all just yet. But when you hear the term resiliency, what comes to mind for you?
There's obviously a lot of people associate the word perseverance with that. But I really think working with young children, sometimes those big words lose their effect. And I think more in the vocabulary that I teach. So just not giving up, having hope is a lot of resiliency.
Exactly. You work with young people. So tell us who's Michael, what you do, where you live, those kind of good things.
So this is my 18th year of teaching. I got to the classroom at the ripe old age of 37. It was not my first career. I didn't discover that I had a passion for teaching until after my children were born, and I was a chaperone on a class trip for my daughter in the first grade, and the teacher on the trip said, "Hey, you should probably look into becoming a teacher." And so as far as the resiliency, after 18 years, I went back and got my undergraduate degree and alternate route, got to a classroom, and I started teaching as a preschool teacher, first grade, second grade for about 14 years, and now I'm entering my third year in third grade.
And we know there are very few men who teach in elementary school. That's something unique. I was a fifth grade school teacher. I was one of the few male teachers that my students had. Talk to us in particular about what attracted you to that population, and what do parents or even students say when they walk in and say, I've got a guy as a teacher?
Well, it's funny because I taught second grade for 14 years, and the most common comment that would come out of a student's mouth, it goes, "Finally, I got a man teacher." It's only their third year in school, but finally, like they've been waiting for so long. But yeah, in the district that I used to work in, there were about 220 certified staff and only 20 were men. And that's pretty much what you would see in the early elementary. And it was a pre-K to sixth grade district. And in that district, most of the men were at the fifth and sixth grade level. Very few were below that. There were none at third grade level, none at the first grade level, and just a gym teacher here and there. So it was very rare. And it provides a lot of children who lack a male role model in their lives to have one. And it provides a different, they come to, I think, categorize what a teacher looks like. And for half the gender out there, they weren't seeing themselves in the front of the room. And we know that representation means a lot. I think also a lot of times, when I was going into the classroom, I kind of doubled my bet, and I was certified K to 12 for social studies, and I was K to 8 elementary. And it was by the sheer luck that I landed in the early grades. And what's kept me there partially was what you brought up, is that there's such a tremendous need for that. But honest to God, it's selfish, because there is so much joy in the younger grades. True, unabashed learning and joy of learning and discovery. And they are scientists discovering the moon for the first time. And it's addictive to be around that kind of an environment when you see kids truly overcome something that they didn't think they could, and to have that kind of an impact makes you feel pretty good about what you do.
And you bring up the fact that you entered the profession through an alternative path, so you can talk to us about that. And then what was the aha? You said it was working with your children, going to a field trip. And someone said, you should do this, which really speaks to the importance of people planting seeds, and you often never know where they go. Talk to us about the alternative route to entering the teaching profession, because I'm sure there are a lot of others who are thinking, I would like to do this, but I don't know how.
It's interesting because with everything you encounter some bias. So there was bias about males in early elementary classrooms. There's a lot of societal bias against that. Plus, if you're not going through a traditional prep program, there's a lot of criticism about how prepared are you for the classroom. And you know, there's been a lot of different solutions to shortages of teaching, and some of them become politicized. So it's interesting. When I was on the field trip, I guess it was the patience. It was also the fact that I was making it so interactive and science-based, and we were on a trip to the beach. We live along the coast, and I had a small group of kids, and I wasn't just making sure that they stayed together. I was really honestly engaging with them and teaching them and laughing with them. And that teacher who my daughter had that year was the one that planted the seed and said, you should really think about going back. And the irony of this all was we came to find out that her cousin was my third grade teacher all those years ago, who had the biggest impact on my life. So Mrs. Finn was Mrs. Osborne's cousin. And so the world kind of brought me right back in a way that I questioned how much of the decision was mine.
I like that, the serendipity and very interesting.
Very much so.
You mentioned the coast. Where do you live? What state? And are you a native of where you currently teach as a state?
I'm sort of native of where I am. I moved a little further south. I am along the New Jersey coast. I'm in Southern Ocean County, but I teach now in Burlington County. And I live right about 9 miles from the Atlantic Ocean.
Pretty part of the country. I used to live in Jersey City, but would get a chance to go to the shore with friends. So beautiful place. You've been involved in this work for quite some time. What would you tell, let's say, your 20-year-old self, knowing what you know now about education? Since we're talking about resiliency and families and things.
Well, I think what happened for me, my experience, in some ways, it's like the curse becomes a blessing. When I came to the class, I was very self-conscious about my lack of preparation for the profession, where a lot of people, like I said, had their opinions about what would make a good teacher, and they really felt that the alternate route was probably not the best producer. So having gotten there, I relied heavily on what felt natural, and that was the relationship building and making children feel valued and that they belong, remembering what Mrs. Finn, my third grade teacher, had done for me, and try to, I guess, pay it forward and do it for the children that I was working with. And often, as the case is, in the second year, you are voluntold a lot of things. And I was given the challenge of being the inclusion classroom, the general ed teacher. And that started what has become a 15-year now tradition of me working with a population of children who have been identified as having learning differences. And it really put me on that path of learning how to meet the needs of very diverse learners. And so that's really what I would say about the alternate path, is that it's also worth mentioning that a tremendous number of people who are recognized for teacher excellence, if you ask them, they are also products of the alternate route.
Huh, you've given me a research project I had not thought about.
There's 21 counties in the state of New Jersey, and when I was a county teacher of the year in 2011, 7 of us were alternate route teachers. So there's something to be said for that, yeah.
So many people, either in your county or in the state of New Jersey or the country, may never get a chance to meet a county teacher of the year or someone with accolades such as yours. Could you walk us through the process of when someone said, hey, we think we're going to nominate you for prize A, and then walk us to the night or the day you found out that you were named person B?
So I think, again, it's this whole not in the lane that you think you're supposed to be in, right? It got me to the classroom. I found the joy of what I was meant to do, and it took me a while to get there. So I think I very much took every moment and made the most of it. And I relied, as we often do, people talk about teaching to your strengths. Well, the strengths that I think I brought to the classroom really were relationship building and humor and patience and kindness and sensitivity, and things that I think are absolutely critical for an early elementary. I mean, I'm sure every classroom needs those, but when you're building that foundation of learning and you're helping define the student's internal voice, it really is critical that you have those types of traits. Having gotten there, I stood out a little bit. I think I got some attention for that and being recognized in about my 5th or 6th year of teaching. I was nominated for the Teacher of the Year for my building, then my district. Then you have to apply for county teacher, which is a fairly rigorous process. Then once that happens, 5 of the 21 county teachers of the year are identified as Teacher of the Year finalists for the state, and then 1 person is chosen for State Teacher of the Year. So I made it to the round for finalist in 2011. I was a 2012 finalist for New Jersey State Teacher of the Year. After working for 14 years in my previous district and wanting a change, I moved and went to a new county, a new school, and I was a Teacher of the Year for the school, and I am now the Burlington County Teacher of the Year, and I am now a finalist for New Jersey State Teacher of the Year again. So it's all about resiliency. You come back, you try again, and I think that the award process is one that really gives you some validation. It gives you some confidence when you lack it. It tells you that what you're on to is something you should remain committed to. And it helped me become a teacher leader along the way.
Well, I'm definitely going to be cheering for you on this side, but you're already a winner in my book. The fact that you decided to do a shift, to listen to a voice, to teach, particularly not only a population because of age, but also learning styles that are different and remaining committed. And we know a lot of people leave the profession, you decide to stay, but even work in a different county. So showing resiliency in all kinds of professional ways. Thank you so much, Mike.
Well, thank you.
And thanks for being a part again of our network of scholars and teachers to help us think differently about what we can do to support people like you. And so with that, I want to thank all of you for joining for another conversation in Character, and we'll be back again. Thank you.
Thank you.